Not the Rhine as it looks today, with its promenades and tourist ferries, and the cathedral rising above the skyline like something from a fairy tale. Picture it in the year 1000 AD. A wide, cold, grey river, moving fast in autumn. On its western bank, a cluster of activity, smoke rising from chimneys. The smell of tallow candles, animal dung, river mud, and bread baking somewhere nearby. The sound of a blacksmith. The distant chanting of monks from a stone church on a hill. You're standing just outside a set of ancient gates, made of stone, and very old. Older than anyone in the city could fully explain. They simply called them the Roman gates. They'd always been there. Walk through them, and you enter a city of perhaps 10,000 to 20,000 people. In northwestern Europe, in the year 1000 AD, that makes this one of the largest cities that exists. Only Paris is clearly larger. This city is called Cologne, or Colonia, the name that has clung to it for 1,000 years. And if you want to understand why it became what it became, a city of power, trade, magnificent stone churches, and ruthless merchant guilds, you have to go back much further. You have to go back to the Romans, because Cologne is, at its very core, a Roman city, and in the year 1000, it still is. The story of Cologne begins around 38 BC, when the Roman general Marcus Agrippa resettled a Germanic tribe called the Ubii on the western bank of the Rhine. They were Roman allies, trading partners, frontier guards. Rome gave them a proper settlement organized on Roman lines, a grid of streets, a forum, temples, official buildings. Then, in 50 AD, a woman changed everything. Julia Agrippina, born in this city, later wife of Emperor Claudius and mother of Nero, personally requested that the settlement be elevated to a full Roman colony. It was given one of the longest names in the empire: Colonia, Claudia Ara, Agrippinensium. Colonia for its status, Claudia for the emperor. Ara Agrippinensium, the altar of the Agrippinensians, for the Ubii who had called this place home. That word, Colonia, never left. Through every invasion, plague, and political collapse, the name survived. Colonia became Scholle. Scholle became Köln, and Köln became Cologne, still carrying, in its name alone, the mark of a Roman emperor and a woman born here 2,000 years ago. At its peak, the city held perhaps 40,000 people. It was built on a precise Roman grid, 70 rectangular blocks, straight paved streets. The main north-south road, the Cardo Maximus, is today called Hohe Straße. The east-west axis is Schildergasse. Walk those streets in modern Cologne, and you are walking the exact same paths Roman citizens walked in 150 AD. The street plan has not moved. The city had a forum, a governor's palace, the Praetorium, which administered the entire province of Germania Inferior, and enormous public baths. Its aqueducts stretched 95 kilometers from the Eifel Hills, one of the longest in the entire Roman Empire, carrying fresh water on a precise gradient directly to this city on the Rhine. The city wall ran nearly 4 kilometers, reinforced by 19 towers and 9 gates. This was not a rough frontier outpost. This was Rome, fully expressed on its northern edge. And then, Rome fell. Not all at once. That is important. The collapse of the Western Roman Empire was a long, slow erosion, authority crumbling, supply chains breaking, armies unpaid, populations drifting from cities back into the countryside. By roughly 700 AD, Cologne's population had fallen from 40,000 to around 3,000. A city built to house 40,000, occupied by 3,000. Streets still there, but most buildings empty or collapsed. The baths unmaintained, the aqueduct failing, the forum overgrown, the praetorium abandoned. The people who remained didn't demolish the Roman structures. They simply couldn't maintain them, so the ruins stayed. One thing survived in a way that would define Cologne's entire future: the Roman city wall. Nearly 4 kilometers of stone, 19 towers, 9 gates. And in the year 1000, most of it was still standing. The medieval inhabitants didn't tear it down. Why would they? It was the best defensive wall they had. They repaired it, built along it, and used the Roman gates as actual working gates. The Roman North Gate remained an active entrance to the cathedral precinct until it was finally demolished in 1826. That is how durable these structures were. That is how completely the medieval city was built on top of the Roman one. Cologne has been a Christian episcopal see since at least 313 AD. As Roman civil authority collapsed, the church stepped in. Bishops became effective civic leaders, managing grain supply, administering justice, organizing defense. By the 9th century, Charlemagne had elevated Cologne to an archbishopric, one of the most powerful ecclesiastical positions in the Frankish world. Under the Ottonian dynasty, the Saxon emperors of the 10th century, the connection between Cologne and imperial power became even more intimate. Otto the Great's own brother, Bruno, served simultaneously as Archbishop of Cologne and Duke of Lorraine in the 950s and 960s, at one point acting as regent of France. He died in 965 and was buried at St. Pantaleon, a church he had founded. Then the Empress Theophanu, a Byzantine princess, raised in Constantinople, the greatest city in the Christian world, chose to be buried at that same church when she died in 991. That choice tells you exactly what Cologne meant at the close of the 10th century. In the year 1000, the Archbishop controls the gates, the river tolls, the markets, and the courts. He is not just the spiritual leader of Cologne. He is its government. What do we actually see in Cologne in the year 1000? The Roman street grid is largely intact, not by deliberate preservation, but because streets persist once established. Rebuilding them requires central planning that simply didn't exist in early medieval Europe. The streets are narrower now, with buildings encroaching, and they are no longer paved. Most are packed dirt. In wet weather, mud. The buildings are almost entirely wooden. The great stone structures of the Roman era, the forum, the baths, the praetorium, are mostly ruins, useful mainly for salvaging building stone. Medieval Cologne is a wooden city living among stone ruins. The exceptions are the churches. Rising out of the timber and mud, they are genuine stone monuments, thick-walled, rounded arch Romanesque buildings in the Ottonian style. St. Pantaleon, its west transept and tower built around 980, is extraordinary by the standards of the time. For an ordinary resident of Cologne in 1000, entering this building is unlike anything else in their daily experience. It is tall. It is stone. It does not burn. It is the most permanent structure most people will ever enter. The cathedral that stands on its ancient hill is not the famous Gothic structure modern tourists photograph that won't begin until 1248. In 1000, it is a smaller Carolingian structure, with the old Roman North Gate still standing nearby, still functioning as a pedestrian entrance to the cathedral precinct. The most important space beyond the churches is the riverfront, where the Rhine, the reason the city exists, moves all wealth in both directions. First, the ecclesiastical community, The archbishop, administrators, monks, priests, cathedral scholars. The church is the largest employer and landowner in the city. Much of the skilled workforce, scribes, illuminators, masons, carpenters, serves its needs. Then, merchants. The Rhine connects the North Sea to the interior of the continent and eventually to the Alpine passes, leading to northern Italy. By 1000, Cologne merchants are trading wine from Rhineland vineyards, cloth from Flanders, wool, salt, grain, and fish. They are building relationships with partners in England, the Low Countries, and Italy. The foundations of a great commercial city are being laid year by year on the riverbank. Then, craftsmen. Cologne's goldsmiths are already developing a reputation for fine work. Blacksmiths, coopers, leather workers, weavers. They live in timber-framed houses, workshops on the ground floor, families sleeping above. For most people, daily life is basic. A central hearth provides heat. The Roman sewer system no longer functions. Water comes from the Rhine and from wells. Food is dark bread, porridge, legumes, river fish, occasional meat. Wheat beer is the daily drink, safer than the water. Religion is not a background element of daily life here. It is the structure of daily life. Church bells mark the canonical hours: matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, none, vespers, compline. Merchants time their market hours by them. The day is organized around sacred time, not mechanical time. There are no clocks. There are bells. The archbishop levies Rhine river tolls, controls market rights, settles disputes, appoints officials. He is the government. There is no separate municipal authority that won't emerge until the merchant class grows wealthy enough to demand it through the 11th and 12th centuries. In the year 1000, the archbishop is dominant and unquestioned. The year itself carries a particular weight. Medieval theology had associated the millennium with prophetic significance. Whether ordinary Cologners feared the end of time on New Year's Eve of 99 is debated. What is not debated is the Church's total authority over how people understood time and meaning. In many former Roman cities across France and Germany, the population collapse was so severe that the Roman street plan vanished entirely. Towns were rebuilt from scratch in new locations. In London, Anglo-Saxon settlers built a new city slightly west of the old Roman walls. In the year 1000, the city is simultaneously medieval and Roman. Walk down Hohestrasse, and you are on the Cardo Maximus. Dig down, and you find Roman paving stones, Roman pipes. The city wall is Roman. The towers along it are Roman. The gates you pass through are Roman. Medieval stonework sits directly on top of Roman stonework. The same wall maintained across 1,000 years. For the medieval resident of Cologne, none of this is archaeology. The old walls are the walls. The Roman ruins are simply old buildings, places to salvage stone, graze animals, hold informal markets. The Romans are not a memory. They are a physical presence, inescapable, unexplained, simply there. In the year 1000, Cologne has 10,000 to 20,000 residents. By 1200, it will have 40,000. By 1300, possibly 50,000. Three forces are converging to make this happen. First, climate. The medieval warm period, a documented warming beginning in the 10th century, improves harvests across northwestern Europe. More food means more people can leave the land and move to cities. Second, the Rhine. As long-distance trade expands, Cologne becomes the essential waypoint between the North Sea and the Mediterranean. Its Gastenrecht, the guest law, requires foreign merchants to conduct business through local middlemen. This single regulation means Cologne's merchant class captures a share of every transaction passing through. It is the business model of a great trading city. Third, the Archbishop's investment. Through the 11th and into the 12th centuries, Cologne's archbishops are among the most powerful figures in the Holy Roman Empire. The great century of Cologne church architecture, roughly 1150 to 1250, will produce 12 major Romanesque churches within the city. This is not just religion, it is economic stimulus, employment, pilgrimage, prestige, and an architectural legacy that still defines the city's character. The transformation from the city of 1000 to the city of 1300 is the accumulation of 1,000 small decisions. By the 13th century, Cologne's guilds and merchant families are powerful enough to confront the archbishop. In 1288, following the Battle of Waringen, the archbishop is expelled and relocates to Bonn. Cologne becomes a free imperial city, governed by its own council, answerable to the emperor alone. In 1248, the great Gothic cathedral begins. It will take over 600 years to complete, but it is built on a hill that has been Roman and then Christian since the 1st century. It is not a new beginning, it is a culmination, layer upon layer upon layer. Walk through Cologne today, and tourists photograph the Roman Tower, still standing after 2,000 years. They walk Hohe Strasse, the Cardo Maximus, without knowing it. Below their feet, Roman paving stones, Roman pipes. Cities are not designed from scratch. They are accumulated. Every generation inherits the decisions of previous ones. The street paved 2,000 years ago, the wall built to protect a Roman colony, the riverfront busy with Roman grain barges in 100 AD, wine merchants in 1000 AD, and tourist boats today. The city of 1000 AD is not a medieval settlement sitting on a Roman site. It is a continuous city. The same location, the same river, the same logic. A place where people cross the Rhine, where goods change hands, where power organizes itself, where stone outlasts the people who shaped it. The people of Cologne in 1000 could not have imagined a city of 1 million. They could not have imagined being bombed to rubble in 1943 and rebuilt again. But they would have recognized the river. They would have recognized the hill. They would have recognized, perhaps, the faint outline of the Roman gate that stood near their cathedral precinct for another 800 years after they were gone.